Hi, I'm Julieann Hartman, and welcome to The Journey. Today I have a very special guest, as I always do each week, but I really do this time because she's a friend of mine. Her name is Pamela Vera. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hi, Julieann.
Well, we've got some really interesting stories to share with you. I don't even know a lot of them, so I'm going to be discovering as our audience is too, so it's going to be very interesting. The one reason why I'd asked you to come on the show was there's actually two things. You were once homeless.
Yes.
And an amazing Christian woman picked you up and brought you to their house. I want to talk more about that in a minute. But also, you had an abortion many years ago, so I want to talk about that as well. Okay. And so let's start first of all with what was your background? Were you raised a Christian? Did you know Jesus? Or have you heard of him at least?
Well, I had heard of Jesus. I was actually raised in a church called Worldwide Church of God. The headquarters was in Pasadena. It was Herbert W. Armstrong.
Okay.
I'm sure you probably don't.
Never
heard of it, but a lot of people have. They had this magazine called Plain Truth. Anyway, so I studied the Bible growing up, but it was a very legalistic environment.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But I had heard of Jesus, but I was really afraid of the thought. He was so distant. I was just so intimidated. And I thought, I wish we could just talk to him.
Right. Mm-hmm. Did you ever ask anybody, like a pastor or something, like, hey?
Well, people actually would approach me. And because the church that I grew up in was very exclusive and we were the only church, when people would talk to me about Jesus, I thought, they're trying to lead me astray.
Oh, interesting. So would you say that was kind of a cult?
Oh, it was a cult. It was a cult.
It was a cult. Okay, well, I'm just asking because
yes, I was told it was a cult and I didn't believe them.
Right. I don't really know anything about that. I've never even heard of that name. But so if you're afraid of Jesus, what is life like? It was probably just like a secular person, but you were even more afraid because...
The law.
Yeah.
The law. Oh, my goodness, the law. Growing up, I was kind of enamored with the law. I would read the Old Testament a lot, even though it was drawing me in. It was also beating me up at the same time. I would just be reading it and then I would think, wow, this book is so awesome. But then I would think, I can't do these things. So it was just kind of a love-hate relationship with the law.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, how did you grow up?
I grew up.
Was it your family was living here too, or you were?
I'm from East Texas. I'm from Marshall, Texas. I grew up with my father. There were 4 children. And we would go to church every Saturday. We were not Seventh-day Adventists, but we went to church on Saturday.
Okay.
And so we kept the holy days. We did not have a lot of influence from the world, you
like your own communities?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Okay. We did not keep Christmas. We kept the holy days from the Old Testament. I don't want to go through them all, but
right. No, you don't have to. I won't remind you.
Okay. But so we were just kind of in our own little world,
Okay.
So when I became an adult, or when I graduated from high school, I came to California because I wanted to get to know my mother. Okay. And so from that point on, I was kind of free, to do whatever the flesh wanted me to do. Yeah. Yes. So.
And then being in that cult-like situation, to be free would be nothing stopping you.
Ain't nothing stopping me now.
Wow.
Exactly.
So what was the first thing that you did that was, not correct or not right? Should I use it?
We don't have to go to... Well, it was, when I came to California, I still went to church. Okay. So, oh my goodness. Julieann. Okay, so I was still going to the Worldwide Church of God. We had locations all over the world. That's why it was called Worldwide Church of God.
Okay.
And I'll just tell you, I met this guy, right? This is the typical story. I met this guy. I knew it was wrong, but I thought he was so cool. He rode a motorcycle, and he was so cute. And so I fornicated, okay? So... So I fornicated.
That's in the Bible. That's in the Bible.
So I fornicated, and then I thought, oh, I better, go to the church and confess my sin.
Right.
And so I actually, oh my goodness, I went to the elders. There were 4 men sitting there, and I told them I've fornicated.
Now, so are you like 18?
18.
Okay.
And they were like, well, you have to leave. And so you have to leave and until you decide to change your mind, until you repent. And so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to stop doing this, so I guess I can't come back.
Right.
And so that was pretty much my exit from the church.
Wow. So now what? Where do you go from there?
Well,
now you're in LA, which is a whole different ball game as far as like Texas to LA.
Yes,
so.
Completely. And especially the town I grew up in, which was a small town.
It was small.
Yeah, small. And it still is the same size, same population as when I left. So
babies are born, old people die. Babies are born, old people die.
So anyway, I was walking down the street, leaving the church, and wondering where I go from there. And well, you know where I went. I went into the arms of the guy.
Of course.
And that was not the last guy. So I was a promiscuous person.
Okay.
Is this going to be edited?
No, this is real. This is real. But listen though. Hey, do you think that are people listening or like, oh my gosh, what did she do? What do you do when there's no more church community? When they've told you to leave, and you already feel bad, but yet your flesh feels good, and they're teaching you so much law that the whole thing was a mess. So
it was a big mess. Yeah. So I, hooked up, as they say now, and I hooked up and I hooked up and I hooked up and I hooked up and I hooked up. And before I knew it, I was pregnant. Mm. And by that time, I was estranged from even most of my family. I was staying with several guys, and the guy told me, you better abort this baby. So, I don't think any of my family wanted me to have this baby.
Right.
Even though the strangest thing was I was stupidly kind of excited.
To get the abortion or be pregnant?
To be pregnant.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so...
You had a little life on the inside.
I know, and I would think about it, but the guy, he took me to the clinic, and he paid for it, and that was it was kind of like, when in a movie when it all goes dark.
Yes. What year was that?
It must have been, it was maybe a year. I came to California in 87. Okay. It may have been 88 or beginning of 89, something like that. No, it was 88 because, it was probably around 88. So it happened. And it was everything goes dark. And to be honest, I don't even really remember much after that. It was I don't remember, it's weird, little memories. When I went through my post-abortion support class, I started remembering things.
Wow.
Because I guess what they say is you just start to stuff things down. It's just, you just put it aside. So, from that point on, of course, me and the guy, we split.
Of course, yeah.
And soon I met the guy that I eventually hooked up with kind of permanently, and I forgot about the abortion. And we eventually got married, and we kind of lived a life, and I didn't know that I couldn't get pregnant, and I wanted to have a baby and never got pregnant. And it's just kind of a lot of, life things happen, job, everything.
Right.
And then, fast forward everything, I left him.
Okay.
I left him.
Now, was there any drugs at all?
No.
Alcohol?
Well, there was always alcohol. But
right. I like the way she says, well, there's always alcohol.
But I was more addicted. This is so sad, but I was more addicted to sex.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you add a little alcohol, a little sex, and you're a happy person.
Right.
Ugh, thinking about it now is kind of bizarre.
Doesn't it feel like it's
weird.
Somebody else?
Yes. It's
yes.
It's just the most bizarre thing. I'm like, wow, who was this little girl? And I was truly a little girl at the time.
Yeah.
So me and we split after all the chaos, and I went on with my life. I thought, okay, now I'm an adult. I'm going to live my life. I don't need him because I left him.
Right.
And
why did you leave him? Was he abusive at all? Or?
Verbally, but it wasn't just him. We were a mess.
Okay.
Okay, we were both a mess.
Yeah.
So I left him, and I lived about a year working a really nice job, I was actually traveling a lot with my job. I remember the last assignment that I had was in San Jose, and I kind of had a breakdown. Long story, but don't even want to go into it.
That'll be another episode.
So I had this little breakdown in San Jose, and the people from my company, I look back and think, oh, those are the cleanup crew. So they came in there, and I don't even remember them picking me up from the hotel. I don't remember them putting me on the plane. I just remember somehow I got home. I was in Long Beach, and that job was over. I was a software consultant at the time. So at that point, I was really in distress, and that was the beginning of homeless Pam. So I wasn't homeless yet, but my mind was on the brink of just, it was just before, it was just before 2001, towards the end of 2000. So I left that I had an apartment, and it was like a jumble, like lots of things. I couldn't see where I was going to work next. I couldn't understand living without a man.
Right.
And so I just began going from place to place. Little by little, I wasn't even able to work. I was just spiraling down and down and down and down. And I'll tell you, it's a huge story.
Right.
So I was spiraling down and down and down, and I didn't put any connection with the abortion. Didn't make any connection with that. As a matter of fact, I don't even think I remembered having one.
Right.
So.
But let me ask you a question though. You said you had a breakdown. Was like, what happened? You were totally fine, and then one day you weren't? Like, what caused the breakdown?
Well, when I was in San Jose. Okay, I was working for this company. I was a software consultant, traveling. I got sick. I had some kind of a staph infection.
Okay.
And I was having an affair with a married man.
Okay.
This could all be a soap opera.
It is. We're just going to have the adventures of Pamela. Okay, so you were having an affair with someone on your team.
On my team,
he was married.
And he was married, and someone mentioned it while we were out to dinner. Like the whole team was out talking, having drinks after work, and someone just blurted it out, and I was like,
"Wow, what do you do?"
I was on blast, and I don't even remember leaving, but somehow I left the table. I went to my room, and I don't know. The shame was so great.
Wow.
I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, everybody knows. So that was just like shut down mentally.
Yeah.
It was just.
So now, were you still in touch with your family, or was it you and your family weren't talking because you left the cult?
Well, that's I left the cult. That's a whole other story.
Well, did you have any kind of support?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's what happens. Think about it. When there's no support,
yes,
we're just left to our own, whatever, our own imagination, our own resources, whatever we just go into survival mode.
We do, and we just do whatever comes natural, and the natural inclinations are just towards death. That's what I learned. Just left on our own, we need community, we need our family, but we need the family of God. That's what, when I look back, I'm like, I was on my own, left to my own devices, just doing whatever came natural.
Yeah.
So I left that company for shame, And then at that point, because I had been a software consultant, it was hard for me to get just a regular job.
Right.
I was overqualified, but yet I wasn't qualified to do the software consulting. So I was just kind of in between. I was just kind of caught, didn't know exactly where I belonged. And I was unemployed for a while, and by then I was renting a room in a city, in California, and that was when the influence of the drugs, people on drugs were all around me because the house was kind of a drug house.
Okay.
And then I ended up shacking up with a guy who was doing cocaine, smoking cocaine a lot. And that was the that was the door to homelessness because I had to leave. And that's when I knew he was going to start beating me.
Right.
So I put everything in my truck and I went out. And I just left. I left him because anyway, that was chaos. He was getting high like all night long. He had his own business, so he didn't really have to do anything. People worked for him. So
where did you go?
I drove to Huntington Drive in Duarte.
Say out in the East Valley.
East Valley, yeah.
So you just lived in your car?
Well, the night that I went there, I drove and I parked. And this is where God steps in and swoops me up. Mm. I knew I was supposed to go there. And at this point, I had talked to my sister, my youngest sister. And her name is Katrina. She had been praying for me. She had been praying for me all along. And she told me to pray the prayer of Jabez.
Okay.
I didn't know what that was. This is before I left the guy. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I did. And when I left that apartment, in his apartment, I know the Lord, he knew I was ready. I was finished with everything. And that's when I met this woman that night. It was probably around 10 o'clock when I ended up in the Target parking lot. There was a Denny's, a Target, and I just remember sitting there, and I had the Bible that my sister Katrina she had given me this Bible years before, and I just opened it, and I was talking to God by then. I said, I always hear that people say, God told me this and God told me that. I said, why don't you ever talk to me? You don't ever talk to me. And the Bible just opened, and it opened up to Job. I think it's Job 32 or 33. And he said, God speaks once, twice, in a dream and a vision, but man does not perceive it. And I was so offended. I was like, okay. So now you're mad at me. That's how I interpreted it. Yeah. Because the unredeemed mind interprets everything as an accusation.
Yes. That is so good. This woman has got, man, you just have like a way of understanding. And a way of knowing like what was basically kind of like what caught you and what held you captive. Not a lot of people know that. They want to blame everybody else. Like you did this to me and that happened and my family did this to me. But you get it. You always have.
Yeah, it had to have been the Lord preparing me because at that moment I was suicidal. I was ready to end it all. And I remember saying if I could just meet Jesus, if we could just, and I remember thinking, if we could just have coffee somewhere. Right. that's what I was thinking. We could work this thing out because there's got to be some kind of a misunderstanding. So I'm sitting in this parking lot, and then he says, I've been talking to you, you just didn't perceive it. And I'm like, you saying I missed it? And I was like, I'm just going to go and get something to eat, and that'll be my last meal. I go in there, sit down, and I like food, even on my deathbed. So I'm eating.
You're planning your whole death.
So I'm eating and everything, and then this woman comes in. And I remember her talking about Jesus. She's talking to people. And she had this flamboyant way. And I think her eyes were about the same color as yours are.
Wow.
And she would just just walk in. She was maybe like 62 or something like that.
So was this at a restaurant or?
It was at Denny's.
Okay.
It was at Denny's. And yes, the woman comes in and
So she's just walking around.
She's going towards a booth. I'm sitting in a booth and she's across from me. She's going across. And she's a regular there because the manager recognizes her.
Okay.
And she's telling him about Jesus. And I could just hear her saying, Jesus, Jesus. And I'm thinking, she's talking like she knows him.
Right. Is he coming for a coffee?
I'm thinking, does she know him? But I'm not thinking like people say, do you know Jesus? I'm thinking, does she really know him? So I'm just eating and I'm watching her. And then after the manager leaves, I'm just staring at her. And I get up. I don't even think I waited for an invitation because I'm just like out of my mind, right?
Right.
And I go over and I'm standing and she just starts talking to me. And she says, I don't remember. Oh, she tells me she just came out of church. And so what I didn't mention before is all these people who were always telling me about Jesus, they always wanted to push tongues on me.
Okay.
And that was my problem.
Oh.
I was like, that's dumb.
That's dumb.
And I'm like,
tongues are dumb.
Yes, they're dumb. And why is everybody running around? And I was so offended with the whole Pentecostal thing.
Right, right.
That was just, I don't know. It was like, that didn't make any
It
sense.
offended you or something.
It did. Yeah. So, I rejected it multiple times. There's the people. So when I approached her and she was all happy, first thing I thought was, I wonder if she's Pentecostal. So when she tells me she just came out of church, I wanted to ask her, is it Pentecostal? And she says, and it's spirit-filled. Okay. And then I was like, okay. So, I'm like, okay, she is one of those. But at this point, I almost didn't even care.
Right.
So I just go back to my seat and she's still da-da-da-da-da. Her food comes and she asks me, do you want to join me? And I pick up my plate, go over and sit down, And she immediately just begins to talk to me about Jesus. And she tells me the story about the woman caught in adultery.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Like, me? And I'm like, is that all you have to say? But she didn't, I didn't say anything. I was too broken.
Right.
And so then after that, she's like, now, because I'm pretty sure I was led to repentance. I didn't say it.
Right.
But she asked me, do you want to receive Jesus into your heart? And I said, yes, I do. So we did that. And then she says,
oh, no.
Now, she says, do you want to receive the baptism of the Holy Spirit? And I'm thinking, here we go again.
Oh, no.
But at this point, I thought to myself, what do I have to lose? I said, I'll just fake it. And then I thought, you know what? At this point, it doesn't matter. So she goes, open your mouth and just let it come out. And usually I have something to say or whatever. Right. This time I was like, this is so sad. Blah, blah, blah. And she goes, look, it wasn't even loud. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. And she said, see, you received Jesus. You received the baptism. Let him, just ministering to me, blah. And as she's talking, I'm kind of like in my own thoughts. And I remembered how I said I wanted to have coffee with him. He said, you wanted to see me. That's what the impression I began to get.
Right.
You said you wanted to see me. And this is when I was like, what? And he says, look into her eyes. When you see her, you see me. Well, I just couldn't put that together. Even though, it says it's not you who live, but Christ lives in you. Right. That didn't come together in my mind. Even though I had studied the Bible, I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, I was thinking there's going to be a little person inside.
Right. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. And so he says, look into her eyes. When you see her, you see me. And I'm just looking. And by now, the night's going on and midnight we're going into the next day. But that was June 10th, 2001. And she told me, and that was before cell phones.
Right, yeah.
She says, call me in the morning. So we parted ways. I went to my truck. And I'm usually someone who doesn't always follow through, you know. But I knew that this was the time.
Wow.
That I better call her at 9 o'clock like I said I would. And I called her at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I went to her house. She rented a room in a house in Monrovia. And she had gotten permission to let me in. And we sat down like this. And she read the Bible to me. She let me wash up. And that went on for a while. And
so you were living there?
No, I would go there in the morning, get cleaned up. She would go to work. And then I would come back in the evening and watch TBN every day.
But you lived in your car?
I lived in my car for a while. At first, she said the Lord, so I was staying there for a while. I stayed there for about 3 weeks.
Like actually staying there?
Stay there. I would come back and sleep there.
She had a bed for you too?
I slept on the floor by her bed. I slept on the floor on pillows.
Wow,
yes. And so she would, of course, she would teach me about the Bible but God was always speaking to me because I was very leery of this woman. Okay.
Yeah.
Because she was very conservative. And I remember when I brought my bag in, I had these skimpy things in my bag, and she's like, "You don't need that. You don't need that." And I'm like,
Don't take my clothes.
You don't know if I need those or not.
Right.
So I remember that was the beginning of me learning conservatism or whatever.
Right.
Just reining me in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Not that those little. What did I have need of those things that I had? Lord was saying, you need to focus.
Yeah.
So I was there for about 3 weeks, and then she said, the Lord said it's time to go. And this is what's interesting that I've learned about people who are homeless, people who are victims in their minds. She always let me know, I'm not responsible for you. She would actually say it.
Right.
And then one time we went to the store, because we went everywhere together, we went to the store and she bought these little candies, and she said, I'm under no obligation to share it with you.
Oh, interesting.
And I remember thinking, I didn't ask, but then I thought, why don't you? You know, because we don't realize people have a spirit of entitlement. They think when they see you have something, it's theirs.
Right, right.
And that part is not addressed, really. So that sank in, because people who have a victim mindset tend to think that everyone is responsible. And I'm going to tell you something, they're not. She would always point me to Jesus.
That is so good. Okay, so we have to stop because we're out of time. But I love this story, you know, and that's what we're supposed to do. Point whoever in our path to Jesus. But what I love too is that this woman took a chance on a stranger that she met, you know, at Denny's. And especially at like midnight, you never know what you're going to meet at Denny's at midnight. But it's awesome. And I just know her now, and what a sweet, kind, generous woman that she is. So whatever that woman did really, really became who you are today, too, with just being so kind and so generous. And so we're going to go for now. We're going to talk about now the effects of the abortion later in life, because that really played a lot into, you know, all the lifestyle that she chose to live. So thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on The Journey. And don't forget to share this. We need you to share these videos. There's people out there that are possibly homeless too, living on the street or living in their cars. And to hear this story, to see that obviously she is not anymore, and she is an amazing person. But not only to share the videos, but we would also like you to go to healingjourneystoday.com and check out everything on our website, especially if you want to help us by donating so that we can bring these shows to you. So go check that out, and also you can get on our newsletter so you can see what's coming up in the future. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week for part 2 of the Pamela Vera story. See you next time.